Hi, everybody, and welcome to An Afternoon with Chuck Lippert. This is sponsored by the Lowell Area Historical Museum, and we are very fortunate that we were able to find you at home because you're still working, you're still traveling. God bless you. Now, one thing I'd like to ask you is, what is your full name?
Charles Evans Lippert.
Evans Lippert.
My mother's maiden name
was Evans.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. What was your parents' name then?
Well, Glenn and Ruth Lippert, and her maiden name again was Evans. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And where were you born?
Hillsdale, Michigan.
Okay.
And we lived in Reading at the time, and that was my dad had a job there, and then we moved to Hillsdale, and that's where I grew up. So, and
did you go to school in Hillsdale?
high school, yes. I didn't go to the college. I went to Michigan State, and then I went to Ferris for pharmacy. So,
that's the deal. Okay, yeah. I wondered where you went to college.
Yeah.
Okay, and well, the big question that I'm sure everybody's going to ask me, what brought you to Lowell, Michigan?
Well, it was an opportunity to buy my first drugstore, and incidentally, I bought it on my 28th birthday.
Oh my goodness! Yes, go ahead.
Well, that was Dean Manigault. Do you remember that name? It was Christensen's drugstore.
Yes.
And it was on Main Street and right on the river by the bridge. And that building's been torn down now, but that was my first store and my first ownership of anything like that. So, age 28, that's pretty young.
That is pretty young, definitely. Now, with the store and with the building being on the river, what did you run into? Did you run into any oopsies or
yeah,
what have
lots
you?
of stories to tell about that. But Marion Cucci Snyder, her father built my office out in the back of the store it was cantilevered over the river.
Okay.
And so one of the guys that worked for me I had my office and I had a couch there and whatever and windows that looked out over. This is after I bought some more stores, so I needed an office space. So he used to, once in a while, he'd fish for carp, and he'd put his spinning rod on the couch, and all of a sudden, you'd be working, and all of a sudden they go, woo! So anyway, and lots of other interesting stories. The underneath the store, it was wet all the time. So
was it?
Imagine that, yeah. And
I often wondered what was underneath the store, what that basement looked like. If it
wasn't a basement, it was a crawl space, a muddy crawl space. Yeah.
Okay.
And so. Okay. Yeah.
Now, so because of the building's deterioration, is that the reason why you moved to the other location?
Well, no, we wanted, by the time we moved down the street, I think I had maybe 5 stores. I forget the count, but
okay.
We wanted to get into a more full offering of products. So if you recall our store, you may well remember that it had fabric, and we had a floral shop in it. We had a variety of sporting goods and automotive, and so on. We were sort of a precursor of a Meijer store, but it was
definitely
a smaller version of it, of course. And my strategy was to build a great store in a small town, and so we would attract from a wider radius. And,
okay.
And that's what we did. Carson City was my third store, and we almost tripled the volume in 3 years, and that's because we had all the offerings that we reached out much further than they did.
Okay.
When the person I bought it from. So.
Well, the one thing, getting back to your Lippert pharmacy, okay. Yeah. Now, this is a question that my mother wondered for years, and God rest her soul. The gift shop there at Lippert Pharmacy. Who was your buyer for that gift shop? Was it Jan? Was it?
For you.
Oh, Jan.
I'll tell you a story about that.
Yeah.
She didn't realize what a gross of anything was. You know what a gross is? A dozen.
Yeah.
And so we were at a gift buying show one time, and she bought a gross of something, and needless to say, we never ran out. Gifts, you sell one of these and 2 of those.
Right.
And so on. And then we were we're talking about our bigger building where we moved. It used to be Eberhardt's supermarket. They moved out where Rite Aid is in that area, but so that building became available, and we had not only gifts, but we had Hallmark, and we had fabric, so
Yes.
had a fabric shop, and
It was a beautifully run fabric shop.
Jeannie Shores ran that for a number of years, and so
Bless her heart. She knew what she was doing.
right.
Most of our Showboat fabric was for the chorus girls were bought there. And so was the patterns. I remember that part.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, I have to pay homage to your wife, Jan, because back in the day, my mother that was the only place, and she raved, that was the only place in Lowell that she felt confident to purchasing a nice gift for one of her friends, one of her personal friends, because of the very nice things there.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jan, you had an impeccable taste. But on the bad side, my mother ruled the day that you carried that false, what was it called? Those dishes.
False graph?
Yes, those dishes. And my father fell in love with the yellow pattern, the yellow and brown pattern. And she was so mad because she would have rather had the blue and white.
Yeah, right.
But my dad went down there and picked up and ordered it. So so like I said, there was a good side and a bad side.
Bad side, yeah.
But I'll tell you what, everything that came out of the gift shop, I heard my mother rave about it. And as far as like the sewing area, we never sewed, but I do appreciate the fact that whatever chorus had to have a dress, and you made sure that there was enough patterns, and you made sure that there was enough fabric. So that was the great homage.
Yeah, I was told that we were the biggest fabric seller in the state of Michigan at one point.
Oh my goodness, really?
Yeah, so that and Hallmark and Park Davis, that was my 3 claims to fame. We were their biggest customers.
Wow.
You mean with all your stores?
All the
With
stores,
all your
yeah,
stores.
yeah.
Okay, so who influenced you to get involved with Showboat?
Well, I've always been a community-minded person. I grew up that way. My dad was always involved in the community of Hillsdale, and I suppose that influenced me, but also I saw the need. It was, at the time, transitioning and the leadership was kind of missing a little bit, so I stepped in and joined the board, and then they made me president of it, and I did that I was president for 7 years, I think, and some of the most fun and most nervous times of both of our lives, as far as anxiety over weather and size of crowds. And
What
all
were those years that you were?
Oh man, I got there in '68, so it's probably 70 I sold my business in '84, so that's when so somewhere in the middle there. It was after Louis Armstrong,
Yeah.
and it was after
So it was,
yeah. So, but it was fun most of the time, and
Well, I show here in a newspaper clipping
okay.
that the Showboat gets going. That's in 1973. It mentions you. And the Showboat to build a new amphitheater. Now, that was a huge project.
That
How'd
was
you
mine.
get
That was your baby.
Look at that.
Yeah, we, the grandstand that we used to use was where the Showboat's been parked all these. I know they've destroyed it.
Yes.
But
Okay.
that on top of that building, which was I think owned by the city, wasn't it? Yeah. And anyway, they put the grandstand right up on top of the building as well as down the front, and then I forget. It was just getting where it wasn't trustworthy, and so plus that was I think that's anyway. We needed to move, so convinced the powers that be. I don't know that was Blaine Bacon, city manager then,
Oh, he was the city manager at that
I
time.
never got along too well with him. But,
Okay.
he went by the rules. And
Wasn't very flexible. Was
no, my goodness, no. And so, anyways, that land was perfect for building a grandstand. So, in building that, and along with a new showboat that Ivan built, Jim Hall designed. That was after the old showboat was knocked over with a tornado.
1979.
79?
Yep.
Wow. So anyway, building that grandstand, we built concrete steps all the way up, and then put the seats in there, and then had the stage.
It was much larger than.
Yeah, oh yeah,
previous.
yeah. It seated a lot more people.
And very sturdy.
And yep, and no fear of collapsing in the grandstand that way. And
Yes.
And our kids all graduated from there.
Yes, so I always used to have high school graduation there. So I was that was quite a project that we took on. And,
Huge project.
Yeah, and then when I don't know, am I getting ahead of your question?
No, go
but,
ahead.
When
No.
the showboat was destroyed by the windstorm, and I think that was when it was down at the other plant. I'm trying to think which came first. Do you have that?
Oh, it was
Curtis?
It was the new amphitheater.
Was it? Okay.
Picked it right up and
Yeah, and
turned it upside
turned
down.
it upside down and destroyed it. So then we were faced with having to rebuild, and that's when Jim Hall got out his, he worked for Steelcase, and he was a designer. So he designed that showboat that we ended up with, and of course Ivan built it
Yes.
with his crew, and we did it on the cheap. So it was. I know right now, isn't it $1 million for the new one? That they're $2 million. Oh man, I bet you we didn't have $80,000 in there.
And Ivan held the papers for a couple of years on it, I think.
Yeah. Well, we all had a little.
I bet you all did.
We
yeah.
signed banknotes that said to finance it,
And it
and
was, $80,000.
was it 80?
Yeah.
So I was right.
Yeah.
That was a lot of money then.
And it had pontoons that I found down in on Lake or on the Mississippi River down in St. Louis area. These pontoons were old Army surplus pontoons, and they were not fully encased. They were half almost like a canoe, and big ones. And so I bought those, and we hauled them up, and that's what became the pontoons for our boat.
I always said that showboat was a house on pontoons.
Yeah.
Because Ivan didn't know how to build a boat, but he knew how to build a house.
Build a house. That's right. So, and one of the most, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves,
No, you're
but
fine.
when Jerry Ford became vice president, he was at the showboat. And so we knew ahead of time, so Secret Service, they thought they were going to come up to our house on where we lived on Alden Nash. And so they were up there looking even in our rabbit cage and everything else for any kind of hidden weapons. And it didn't turn out that happened at our place. But anyway, he came down the river, and the rumor was that they had frogmen underneath, making sure
That was a rumor. I remember
Yeah.
that.
And I never bothered to figure out if that was true or not, but it was a good story. But
That is.
I used to go on the stage ahead of time and sort of entertain the crowd, and I'm not a Rich Little or anything, but I looked a little bit like him at the time.
Yes.
But I couldn't make people laugh like that. And anyway, he was on the boat, and so everybody, the boat was loaded, and I remember looking at it, and it went around the curve down behind my old drugstore.
It made it around Cattail Bend then.
Yeah, except it was like this because everybody. So I had to turn them. Everybody balanced the boat because it got
Right.
stuck in the mud. Everybody wanted to be on that side and see
Right.
it happen. So
Yes.
then he dedicated the. I think that was the new boat that he dedicated. So
I didn't realize that
Mm-hmm.
that President Ford dedicated the boat.
No,
yeah, he did. He was there as a dedication, I believe. I'm not
Great.
clear on that, but
he
Okay.
was president by 70.
But he was only vice president when he came to
Right.
us.
So maybe it was a new auditorium. I don't know.
I think it might
Okay.
have been.
Could have been.
The amphitheater rather
But
than
we had the new boat.
Okay.
because I remember us being
He must have
afraid of the pontoons filling up with water, and
because he'd already.
yeah, so that was, I don't remember the dates so much,
That's okay.
but I just remember it happened. So it was that
He
was
was there every year, wasn't he? Before.
well, not every year, but
Well, when he
when he
early
was
on, when he was
when House of Representatives, yes, he was. And, we used to at that time we lived on Riverside Drive in the
Yes.
old what was
Runciman
it
House.
Runciman House,
Yes.
and that's where the dock was, where we took off in the boat. And
I often wondered, that was going to be one of my questions, is
Mm-hmm.
because the dock was built on your property.
well, I don't know. Was it?
Actually, because everybody that's on Riverside Drive has access to the river,
Mm-hmm.
and that dock was the steps swings around, and that the steps were in front of.
Kesseling.
Was it Jan Johnson? Is that where
No,
the
it
steps
was
started?
a guy that worked for me, Gary Hesslink, and
Okay.
he lived on the corner right across the street from us.
Okay.
And
okay.
so then, but then they wound down. You're right, probably could have been on our property.
And yes, and
Never
that's
thought of it that way. But
okay. Well, I thought about that.
Because Runciman owned that home,
Yeah.
your house, and he was the interlocutor for years. So
Okay.
the parties were always there. So
Right.
Yep.
Okay, I didn't know that. But I had thought about that years later as a kid when we would all use the dock.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked straight up knowing that everybody had a right of way and that went to your home. So
Never bothered us.
no. That was very fortunate for us that you allowed that.
Well, I blame
That's
my
a huge
daughter,
dock.
our daughter, and her on moving
Oh,
there because I loved
Stacy?
it. I loved it out in the country.
Oh, okay. So you were out on Alden Nash first, and then moved to the
Right.
beautiful home on Riverside Drive.
Right.
I'm with Stacy and Jan. I would have loved to have lived in that house. Now, my next question is about Jim Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and the reason why I bring him up is because Jim said to me once, he says, "Well, Tina, your father was my best friend." He says, "But I got to tell you," he says, "Chuck Lippert, he was my best friend. That was a good friend of mine." And at that point, I looked at him and I said, "Besides Showboat, what was your connection?" I didn't, and he says, "We'll have to sit down and talk sometime."
Yeah.
And I never got that interview.
Never got to?
No, I didn't.
I know.
But so Jim Hall claims you as his best friend. And so what interests did you share besides Showboat? What was there?
Sense of humor.
The sense of humor.
That's right.
Yeah, sick sense of humor.
Bless your hearts.
Yeah, Bev and Jim, and I loved his creative mind, and we used to laugh a lot. When I had my all my drugstores, I bought a mini motorhome and converted it to an office, and so during Showboat, I would take my office out, put the seats back in like it's a regular little motorhome. I had one of those beds above the where the driver is, that
Okay,
kind of,
like a Winnebago.
yeah, something
Okay.
like that. And we'd back it in there and plug it in, and it was our official place to be during the shows.
Oh.
And so Jim and Ray Queta and whoever else, we'd sit in there and, of course, have a little cocktail or something.
Something.
And just laugh and all that
Oh,
stuff.
my
So
goodness.
yeah, I love Jim. So
Well, you guys worked hard.
You guys
And
did.
so you deserved
gentlemen
to have.
did.
right,
Yes.
and you could always count on Jim.
What is interesting, what you just brought up, is you virtually had headquarters, Lippert Pharmacy headquarters on wheels.
Right.
Now, why would you?
Well,
need to do that?
I had a headquarters. I bought the Beecham building,
Okay.
and that was where we our office, because I built quite an office staff, and in fact, I hired a professional buyer for gifts and fabric, and so Jan, it grew to
That
be
would
too
be
big.
Jan.
No, it's, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, and then we had, Kurt Lucinor. I don't know you know that name, but he used to work for us, and he and then we had other people in the office, including Marion Cucci Snyder,
Okay.
And so, but that was a traveling office that allowed me to work while she drove. And so
Wow.
because I was, I had a flat organizational chart that said I had me, and then I had all the stores and the managers underneath me, and I didn't have that kind of and so I didn't have the time to be with them the way I had could because I was stuck in the office all the time. So
Okay.
so anyway, that was
So
quite a
I'm trying to
radius
wrap
of
my brain
stores.
around this. How you were how you had a movie desk on wheels. Okay. So, and I don't, and forgive me, but I'm trying to figure out your process here. Okay. So you had how many stores? 13 stores?
yeah.
Or-
Before I sold the business, yes,
You had
13.
13 stores total. So did you have so was it every Tuesday you went to a store, or was it, did you put on a calendar and say, I'm going to be there and were you there
I
all
don't.
day?
No, it would be.
Okay.
In fact, we had 3 stores down in the Allegan area. We had Plainwell and Allegan and Wayland and I forget what other. But so we would hit maybe 3 stores in a day. And I remember one night coming back from Allegan. It was in the middle of winter, and the windows on my mini motorhome were all frozen, steamed up, from the heat. And she's driving, and I wasn't paying attention. It was dark out. It was like 5 o'clock when in the winter it gets dark early.
Okay, yes,
And
of course.
and then I heard we're on a dirt road all of a sudden, and then she slows down and she says, finally, I had a door between the driver and me with a doorknob because she smoked and I didn't want the smoke in the
Right.
back. So, so anyway, all of a sudden she stopped and she opened the door up and says, I'm lost. Where are we? How do I know?
Bless your heart.
So I said, turn around, and I got up in front. I said, we'll go back out and just until you hit pavement again, and we'll figure it out.
Right.
So we didn't have GPS then.
You did. No, definitely. So what happened to your office on wheels?
Well, I
What happened
sold
to
it.
that?
I'm thinking I sold the business in '84, so probably in '81 or so, because I had a couple district managers, and so anyway.
So when you showed up to the store with your traveling desk, your office, and you said you plugged in. Okay, so was that when you'd come out of your office with the paperwork and you talk to the people, or did your manager come in and you guys would have like your own private
We had
meeting
that was.
or what have
They
you?
used to think that's where I fired everybody.
Oh, okay.
They were
Nobody
afraid,
wanted to get into the.
but that wasn't the case. Although I did fire a couple people in that office, but we would, back then, I had a thing where you could plug in, so you get like in a trailer park, in a
Yes.
mobile
Okay.
home park, and then I had a phone jack in each one of them, so I could get a landline because I had a mobile telephone, but it was back when you had to talk to Mabel to get to the next
I
number.
see.
So
Now, I did bring this up. The Grand Valley Ledger says Lippert sells 13 store chain to Rite Aid Corporation. Now, so why did you sell out?
Well,
I don't want to say sell out. Why did you sell your company? Because you're such a busy person. I was surprised.
I had we'd grown the business quite aggressively, and it was I bought a store in Plainwell and totally remodeled it and made it into one of ours, and I bought a store in Wayland at the same time, and I think I had another store that we were growing, and the debt was starting to pile up, and this guy from Rite Aid, who was the son of the founder, showed up and was interested in buying my store, and I said I don't want to do that, and so I had a CPA for a finance person came in, closed the door, and says, I think we better talk to him. 'Cause we had a lot of bills piling up, and so I didn't want to pass that up. So he offered a number. He went around and looked at all the stores in one day, and he came back and offered a number. I said, nah. So anyway, we negotiated that final deal out at the airport in They flew in on their private jet,
Wow.
and they had their one of their finance guy, or he anyway. He wanted a 1-page agreement, and I said no. One page has too many loopholes in it, too much. So anyway, we finally made the deal. It was on Labor Day Eve, and so I called Jan, and told her that we sold. So she, I said we had a cottage up in Traverse City, so I said, why don't you go head out, and they're going to fly me up in their jet.
Wow.
So here I am in beautiful private jet, sitting all alone in the back, contemplating what I had just done. So, and it was, it was exciting yet sad, because I built. It was my sort of my creation, or our creation.
Absolutely.
I had certainly a lot of help to get it to that point, but it was fun building it. But it was time to sell it. So.
What a great story, though. I had no idea that it was Rite Aid's founder's son that actually talked to you.
In fact, he ended up in prison.
Oh my goodness! I didn't know that.
Well, they create a lot of tricky financing on their.
Okay.
They were a public company, but they had people build a building for them, and then they created these sweethearts. To your question. The mobile office thing, when I owned the furniture business, this guy showed up and he said, I want to buy your computerized router. I said, what are you using it for? He says, well, I patented this mobile desk that fits in the back of a mini, that this time is an Chevy Astro van.
Oh.
Of course, light bulb went on. I said, so how are you gonna market this? And he said, I don't know, but I got the patent, so. I said I can build it, but I looked at it, it was an ugly design. So, anyway, it ended up that I hired a designer. We built this beautiful desk that fit in the back. It was really beautiful, and so that was the beginning of the company called Mobile Office Vehicle, MOV. We were MOV, and later on. Somebody came to me from California, and he'd invented this little desk that seat belts in the front seat where the passenger would ride.
Okay.
And so I hired a designer to redesign it, and I cooked a deal with him that I would take over and start selling that, and that really took off, and that's really the genesis of what I'm doing now, which is we have a company called Auto Exec, and we sell mobile offices throughout the world. Really, we have.
Wow.
I don't want to make it sound bigger than it is, but we have a distributor in Australia and one in Denmark, and so in fact, David is over in Vietnam right now, where we have some of our products made. In fact, he ran into a steel case dealer in Hanoi, of all places, that wanted to take on our product line.
Oh, okay.
But so we have 500 product SKUs now, and
this is amazing.
Yeah,
I'd like to see this.
Yeah, this is Dave does all the marketing of it, but
okay,
it's there's an idea of how the front seat looks.
Perfect.
Could look in the front seat of a car.
I could have used this years ago. To be honest with you, when I'm on the road with Blue Cross Blue Shield and with my supervisor, this is great.
Yeah. In fact, insurance companies are our biggest target right now, the insurance adjusters.
Okay, I bet.
Yeah, and
okay,
we've got a lot cooking there. So.
Oh my gosh!
With
look at this.
Yeah.
So Auto Exec, this is the genesis of the company now, correct? Is that
right?
What you
right.
said? Okay.
Right. So.
Wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Now,
thank you.
My next question is, okay, are you going to ever retire? What's going on with this?
Well, I'll retire when we take the RE off the front of it, since I'm tired. Put the ED on the end. So I'm not tired yet. I like working, although I do have to admit that 8-hour days are not my favorite things, and although I do have those sometimes. But we have an office down on 44th Street, just south of 44th on East Paris, and it's where we assemble all of our products.
Okay.
And we ship out of there. And Amazon's our biggest single customer, although we have a company in where are they? They're in Columbus or Indianapolis. I think Indianapolis, that has 9,000 trucks on the road, and they plant the flags for Miss Dig. So all the little flags that are in the yard, they every year they'll rotate a third of their fleet, and they put our desk in the front, and it's got a It's like that desk right there,
Right.
that holds a laptop.
And I see files.
And you'll see their trucks
Oh my
around Grand
gosh.
Rapids. They're USIC,
Okay.
and they're all over the country. And but they're our single biggest business-to-business customer.
This is
And,
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, this is amazing that you're still the great thing about it is that you still have great ideas and you're still moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And you're able to say, okay, this is behind me. I'm done with that. Let's move forward. And this is amazing. And your
thank you.
son is right along with you, Dave, correct?
Yeah, Dave is president of the company.
Oh my gosh.
I carry the title of CEO, which
Of
is,
course.
we all need titles, but he's really running the business. Although I mentioned
Bless his heart.
he's in Vietnam as we speak.
Right.
But, yeah.
Well,
So-
my question to you is this. Now, and I'm only asking you this from a personal standpoint. So what is you said you don't like to put in 8 hours. So are you a night owl that you actually, you'll start your day like at 8 o'clock at night and work through, or what?
No,
what gets you?
no, nothing like
Yeah.
that. I go in, I'm usually there by 9 to 9:30 in the morning.
Okay.
And
Okay.
our staff arrives at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
And so then I usually go home around 3:30, 4 o'clock. Depends on what's going on. So I don't have people reporting to me anymore. Dave takes care of all that, although I do intervene here because Dave's
Right.
gone more than I am. He's doing not only the marketing, but he's doing sales, and so that's and he's got a lot of stuff that he does. So,
Definitely.
as I mentioned, he's in Vietnam right now we have a company there we have sewn products, bags and totes that you carry from the office to the car.
Oh, so like right from this piece to the side there, you can pull up your
No,
files and walk
it's
in?
a fabric thing. No, right there. Those are made in Vietnam.
Wow.
Okay.
Very nice.
And
Very nice.
So we and then we have a supplier in China. In fact, we got 3 different suppliers we use in China, but most of our stuff's U.S. and so that's we have vendors that sell to us. So we don't manufacture anything; we assemble and ship.
Okay.
So, but it's all our products. So
That's amazing.
Yeah.
This is such a great interview. I do appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah.
But I do have one more question. I know I've asked you about 100 questions here, but
oh, you've only asked 12. I talk too much.
no, you do not. What is your favorite memory of living in Lowell? What's your favorite memory?
Well, it has to be Showboat. Probably Pearl Bailey.
Really?
Do you remember when she was there?
Yes, I do. I do.
She was there for a full week, and it was Sunday when she was doing her rehearsal for the show, going forward. And I think probably Jim Hall and Ray Queta were with me, and we went in to watch the rehearsal. She kicked us out.
Where was the rehearsal at? I don't
On
remember.
the stage at
Okay.
the Showboat.
But it was an open air
Yeah, and
stage.
we had the fences closed or whatever,
Okay,
so nobody
okay.
could come in. And she didn't want anybody in her rehearsal, so we said okay. So we went up to my mobile office and we sat up there and laughed and so on and so forth. And the reason I say it's one of my favorite memories because by Wednesday night, I think it was Wednesday, she was on stage and she says, "Where's that Chuck Lippert? I want to meet him." And she, and so that's then I, after the show, I met her and she apologized for kicking us out.
Oh.
She didn't know who we were, and so we got to like each other, and she was a really wonderful lady. And she actually wrote to me from Egypt. She was on the Nile River,
Wow.
and she wrote at that time you write cards or letters, and
Yes.
she wrote me a nice letter, and I don't even know where that is. I should have saved it, but that was one of my favorite times. We've had bad times too when we had the rock concert, and your brother was helping me clean up after it.
That would be my late brother Tower.
Is he?
Yeah, he had passed away.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Was it? What was? Did he go by another name?
It was Paul Siciliano. Paul Tower Siciliano.
I think it was your brother.
Yeah. Yeah, because it wasn't that an Eagles concert or who was
No,
there?
it was.
What was that?
I don't remember.
That they
They're-
ripped up the bleachers and he was heartbroken and went down.
Well, they
there
didn't
and-
really rip up the bleachers, but they had a. It was. I don't know. It was. Because the weather was coming in, and that was another part of the Showboat that I didn't like was the weather. But so it ended up people were getting high and smoking a lot of dope and
Right.
that kind of stuff, like rock concerts are. We actually got so many complaints that we went. Was it Vince McCambridge's cottage? I think was where we went out on somewhere out on one of the lakes. What's that lake north of Lowell? That's
Murray
Lake. That's where we
Okay.
were. I think it was Vince's, but whoever it was, we kind of got out of Dodge because it was, we were afraid that people are going to throw tomatoes at our house or whatever. So and Barb Curtis and
Okay.
and she was very much involved. She was one of my. I mean, we became really close friends with Barb and Dick, and so. Then we came back, and it was almost a riot at the stadium. It was awful. And I got up on the stage, and they were throwing bottles and everything, and they were breaking headlights on the truck as they tried to get out of there.
Also, the band was in the truck and they were trying to get
Well,
out of
yeah,
there.
trying to go through the crowd, and so that finally shut down, and we were trying to raise money to pay for the Showboat that we talked about earlier, that we needed more money to pay off the loans that we'd, and anyway, so next morning, well, that night, I'm sure it was your brother. How old would he be today?
Gosh,
He was younger than me.
Yes, but he was older than me.
Yeah.
He's probably he would have been about 60.
60 now, so he's 18
Yeah.
years younger than I am, and so that'd be about right. And so he was feeling that he didn't want to let Dad down and have the city look bad the next morning.
Right.
And so we stayed up quite late on Sunday night on the Saturday night, and picked up all the trash we could that would be seen to people that woke up on Sunday morning.
Right.
And so, meanwhile, I had to go to Allegan to work in one of my stores. And so Jan and our two kids went down, and a bunch of people showed up and to pick up all the trash in the stadium. And but I'll never forget that how your brother jumped in to help me, because I was going to do it all alone, and I felt responsible, and I didn't want to have. I mean, it was trash everywhere around, anywhere in the 2 or 3 city blocks of the Showboat.
I didn't realize
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So it was. Yep. So that was one of the worst times. We used to, like when the Kingston Trio came.
Yes.
Do you remember the Kingston
Yes,
Trio?
I do.
Do you? And they were there, and they came up to our house on Alden Nash and hung out for the day, and swam and
Right.
shot pool.
And relaxed. And
then we had a special concert one time with John Gary. Do you remember that name?
I do not. I
Okay.
do not.
Anyway, he was a crooner back in the day, and he and I became pretty good friends, and he used to hang out, and we played tennis because we had a tennis court. So
Yes.
he was a pretty good tennis player, and I was in my prime a decent tennis player. So that's so those were fun times. Jan got the brunt of the entertaining that we did because I would, be entertaining all these people, and we'd have, what you do when you entertain a bunch of people for the first night of the Showboat, and she didn't have anybody to cook or do any of the cleanups, and so she was busy behind the scenes
I
preparing
never
for
realized that.
Yeah.
I never realized that because I know that Jan did do a lot of the parties or
Yeah.
the those type of entertaining that was sprung in her lap. I did not realize that she did that alone. So
Yeah,
what
pretty
a
much. I mean,
trophy bride you have.
were you always all alone?
All alone doing
Prepare-
these entertaining, cooking and cleaning. Girl,
Yeah.
young lady.
Meanwhile, I'm Mr. Entertainer, and
Of course, of course.
so
Well, and definitely, I'll tell you, us kids growing up in Lowell, I looked at you. You were bigger than life. You were Chuck Lippert. You did a lot of great things for Lowell. Not only did you have a great place to work, and it was always spot on clean, and the place that my mother would actually buy things from your gift store. Thank goodness for Jan. But I'll tell you, that's Lowell really pay. There's always there isn't a time that I go by that we talk about how, when we get together for my class reunion, class of 1980, and we bring up, Chuck Lippert. He brought a lot to the table. We do appreciate
well,
that,
thank you.
mister.
Yeah, the one of the stories I talked about our city manager Blaine Bacon,
Yes.
and so one of the things I wanted to do when we were on Main Street, the old store,
Yeah.
I wanted to make Lowell the New Orleans of the North, and so because the Showboat, the river, and all that kind of stuff. So I sourced the wrought iron that we put. I built a deck, a second story. Do you remember that? And it was had all the official. It was from Memphis, Tennessee, and the official molds of New Orleans. So we built the wrought iron, and the people that built the wrought iron, they were so interested in it because I wanted the whole town to do that.
Right.
And so anyway, got it up there. They donated, the people who built the wrought iron donated some wrought iron seating benches up for the balcony, and it was pretty cool. So then Blaine Bacon came down and looked at it, and he says, "Well, I got to tax you for this." I said, "Tax? Yeah, you've improved the building." So that essentially killed it right there. He killed it just like that.
Right, just like that. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, because we had a lot of people interested in it. I could picture the whole downtown Lowell being, a lot of wrought iron sort
With
of.
that nice ornate wrought iron.
Yeah, exactly. So
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
That
So-
you were the one that brought that wrought iron to that building, and you said that building was only one story, so you brought it up.
Well,
to
there
two
was an
stories, or
upstairs. No, there was an
Okay.
upstairs, but it was, like
I see.
beat up. So, anyway,
Wow,
yeah.
that's amazing. I never realized that. That wrought iron. As a kid, looking at that, I always thought it was beautiful. Because
Well, we tried.
we're on the river.
Yeah, we
and-
tried.
and what have
And
you. So,
It never went anywhere. So
gosh,
I
darn
think
it.
maybe one other store across the street put some wrought iron on.
I think they did too. I think they did too.
But anyway,
Well, gosh, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us?
no, we enjoyed our days in Lowell. It was I enjoyed living out on Alden Nash because it was kind of out in the country and it was fun. And I used to back when I only had maybe 2 or 3 stores, I remember one time we had a big snowstorm in April or whatever, and somebody needed a prescription, and the snow was this deep. Unfortunately, we had a Chevrolet Suburban, so I could get there, and I forget what it was. I don't know what she needed, but I went down and filled. I remember that. It was on a Sunday or whenever, and the whole town was shut down.
But you were
Yeah,
able to
you know,
fulfill that.
yeah, that's what you do.
That
So,
is what you did. That's
yeah.
what you did for us.
Well, thank you.
That is what you did for us, Mr. Lippert. Mr. Chuck Lippert, thank you so much
Well,
for being a part of us.
yeah, you bet.
You're still a part of Lowell,
Well, thank
and
you.
we still consider you one of ours.
Thank you. Yeah, we've moved around a lot, but we've always stuck around this area. So, all
Thank
right.
you so much.
All right. My pleasure.
Thank you again.
Okay.